This is Not Your Father's Fundraising Podcast, a podcast about, you guessed it, nonprofit fundraising. This isn't the first podcast about it, but definitely not like any others you've listened to. This is a podcast for fundraisers, by fundraisers. No boring charts or the same stale best practices you've heard for years. No ideas that only work in theory here. No concepts from people who aren't in the same trenches as you are every single day. Each week, you'll get practical strategies and tips to craft messages that engage donors and raise more money. This isn't smoke and mirrors. Everything has been pressure tested in the real world. Plus, you can start using them as soon as the episode ends. Now, here are your hosts, Ryan Thomas and Steve Thomas.
Hello. Welcome to Not Your Father's Fundraising Podcast. This is episode 14, How to Acquire New Donors. I'm your host, Ryan Thomas, Vice President at Oneicity.
And I'm Steve Thomas, CEO and one of the founding partners of Oneicity.
We started this podcast because you know that this work doesn't stop. If you're a fundraiser, it is literally a 7-day, 24-hour. You might say 7/24, you might say 24/7, depending
Or
on
365.
Yeah, it depends on your proclivity. But either way, this thing doesn't stop. And yeah, that's the word of the day.
Proclivity. Write that one down.
Now it's a bonus if I used it correctly. If I didn't use that correctly,
I think that's like a 28 or 9 on the Scrabble score. So that's pretty
especially
impressive.
get a triple word or triple
Oh no,
letter.
that's got to be like a 75 with a triple. Yeah,
I'll take it. I've never scored that high.
That's good.
That's usually my total.
You need a Q.
Yeah, you need a Q. But we started this because it doesn't stop. Regardless of big word or number that you put on it, it doesn't stop. And we would have these conversations and be talking about, oh, I saw this, or ooh, we ought to try this. And your brain doesn't stop. And you and I would talk about things at barbecues, hanging out, dinner, and family events, and
Boring everybody.
Yeah, the eyes glaze over. And we realize, okay, we've got a podcast. We're just not recording it, and we can get it in front of closer to a more motivated, interested audience.
And just bore different people for a while.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to hit pause and swipe out than it is to walk off from a conversation over the grill.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt our feelings this way.
And if you're paying extra close attention, you probably noticed that we share a last name, and that might make the name of the podcast make more sense, might make it funnier.
I'm not going to do a Darth Vader on this episode.
Okay. We'll alternate.
Just call it that.
But we're at Oneicity. We're a boutique ad agency that we focus on fundraising for nonprofits and marketing. That's what gets us out of bed. And our team has been around a long time. We've been together. The Avengers have been together for over a decade, but they were off doing superhero stuff.
Well over a decade.
Yeah, but the rest of the team, we have a lot of people on our team who measures how long they've been doing superhero work for nonprofits in multiple decades.
Oh yeah. And the fundraising in the billions of dollars. Maybe not billions.
No, let's just say billions. I mean, how are you going to track that?
That's good.
Yeah, billions with a B. That was the reject name of our podcast. But in addition to letting us know if we use words correctly in our vocab secret word, send us your feedback. We'll take constructive feedback. We've decided to open it up to people who aren't telling us we're awesome.
The therapy's working.
Yeah, it's paying off.
Yeah, we can take it.
Send all that to podcast@oneicity.com. That's ONEICITY.com. Podcast the usual way. And we'll get it. Any questions or, hey, you guys ought to talk about this. I would really love to know this. We would
never bring that up again.
Yeah, never talk about that.
Okay.
That's great. If you want to give us episode-centric or micro-level feedback week by week when you listen, that would be awesome too. We won't share that with anybody, but yeah, send it in. Yeah. But definitely send in your 5-star reviews wherever you get your podcast, wherever you're listening to us from now. Rate us 5 stars. It helps the algorithm. It helps other people find us. And
it doesn't cost you anything. So
yeah, it's just a click. You don't even, I think most of them will even let you do it. Yeah, you don't even have to mean it.
Yeah, don't have to mean it.
Nope. We'll just take your 5-star. I think you can even do that without leaving a review.
Oh yeah, you can.
So it is very easy on your end to do. And if you don't, there are sad podcast makers out there who will not be able to get a 5-star review.
Oh.
Yeah, I was going to do a whole scaffolding thing, but I'm not going to do that. I'd like to get people at least through our first segment before they tune out, which is mail call. We like to look at something we've seen in the wild, whether that's mailbox, inbox in real life, and talk about it. And I'll go first. Sadly, I didn't bring it with me, but I got a very nice thank you card from an organization that we support, and I really like what they do. And they were thanking me for giving to one of their springtime campaigns. They had a pithy name with it, but thank you for giving to this campaign. It was great. Except I didn't. Now, it's not as bad as that. That's kind of my clickbait response. I'm a monthly donor.
Oh, so you kind of got included in.
But I didn't even know about that campaign. And so I got to thank you for giving to this April Showers or May Flowers campaign. And it's like, I didn't give to that.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Sarah looked at it and she goes, I think they screwed up. We didn't give to this. And I said, well, yeah, I bet they just they just pulled a report who gave this month.
It was faster that way.
Yeah.
Or data, whoever pulled the data kind of
they was like,
rounded up.
Yeah,
like, that won't matter.
Well,
no one will pay attention to that.
This campaign was my idea. We need to make sure we get some more. Let's just scoop the monthlies in. They gave a gift during the campaign. So,
yeah. So technically.
Yeah. Wonderful execution or wonderful thought. Really good execution, but not perfect execution. And didn't make me rethink my gift, but is just kind of a reminder that, okay, those guys are small and they're shoestringing it together.
Sure.
But not ideal.
Was there, could they have made that feel better to you as a donor?
Sadly, I don't think a lot of donors would have noticed. I don't think, because I think even
they just would have gone and passed them.
Yeah. Which is fine, but maybe if you're a bigger monthly giver, I think what they should have done ideally would have been, if they wanted to send something to a monthly donor and do this campaign, you could have said, thank you for giving your gift. It was in the month of April, and that was part of our April Showers campaign. And even though you didn't give on that page, your $50 or whatever it is a month went to this, and this. Thank you so much. Or if they wanted to be really not aggressive, but capitalizing and listen to our podcast, they could have said, thank you for your gift in April. We were doing this campaign, the April Showers campaign. If you'd like to give to that campaign, here's the URL.
Yeah.
And they could have driven me to maybe give a second gift.
Yeah. Well, and it's not a hard thing to even, validate a monthly donor, just with just saying, you're, as one of our valued monthly donors, you made a difference this month, along with all the other people who gave to the.
Yeah.
Was it really?
It was either April Showers or
Mayflowers.
April Showers, Mayflowers. Yeah, it was one of those. I can't remember.
Okay.
It's probably Mayflowers because I got it recently.
Right.
Either
Cool.
way.
My turn?
Yeah, what'd you get?
I got some in the mail, and I actually brought my homework.
Yeah.
Dog didn't eat mine.
I mean, it helps that our studio's at your house, but that's fine.
Okay. So this is and for the video, I blocked out the, so that you can't identify because I want to be kind to these people, and it's really a nice piece. This is a slightly smaller than a Hallmark card, probably an A6 or an A7 if you're in the mail business. They do a great job. It's a nice little packet of information. It's got a fun little teaser on the front, and it's interesting because it's kind of a business looking from the desk up is actually but it looks like business stationery addressed to us. Does a great job of telling the story as we get down to it. They make a great offer. Here's the ask. They do a per day price so that you can get a sense of what you're going to be doing. And then they've enclosed some stuff, and they actually use in the middle of the letter personalization of our first names, which is pretty nice. And
Yeah.
but then they say, by June 30, we must receive donations totaling, it's a mid five-figure or more, in order to end the ministry year on firm financial ground.
Oh,
It's been a challenging year, but because of you and your faithful support, we have been able to push forward. And then they make another ask for the gift. So they've done a great job. And then they get to the part where they both ask badly. They don't ask badly. They ask well, but they do the because. So we talked in previous episodes about how important because is as a turning point in a fundraising impact. And they say, to end the year on firm financial ground.
so what should they have said? Because that's their situation.
Yeah. Well,
them,
okay. So let's
when
just
they're
talk
writing
about
it.
so
They're worried about
what's
budget.
what's going on is they're worried about budget, but they are trying not to say it's about budget. And my guess is, I forgot to say something. I'm a lapsed donor.
for them.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm not a current donor, and so I'm not in the hunt, right? And so I even have less
That's even
reason.
worse.
Yeah. So they
Burned one of their lapsed mailings.
Yeah. So, well, or I don't know how they're doing this. They may just lump me in with all the other currents. I don't know. So anyway, the sad part is they didn't say, which is fairly strong, although I hate it actually, is to say, we've got to meet our budget. They don't say we're this many dollars short of meeting our budget. They pick a number and then they translate that into firm financial ground. I have been there on and
You've been on shaky financial grounds.
no, that's not. I was going to say I've helped clients who are looking to message around this, and the trick is, okay, if I absolutely can't say we're not going to meet our budget or
Because if you can't say we're not going to meet our budget, we're going to have to shut our doors.
yeah, and you get one or two fire sale things ever, and so you just don't want to.
Marketing and fundraising is going to be very happy because that should do very well.
Yeah, but this is neither. This is none of those things. And then, so I would even have not be talking about this on this podcast, or they would be my good example.
They'd be gallant to your goofus.
If they had said, to meet our year on firm financial ground, because if we don't, or because if we do, none of that. And it's because probably that they. My guess is that internally they are close on budget, but they're going to be okay. They don't want to say the bad stuff about you. You can't. We don't want to raise that money, and so they've gone with what they had. But because and a reason why I, as a lapsed donor, should care would have helped. They just didn't do that, so they got close. I bet they don't meet their goal. Be my guess.
Yeah, unless they've already got some of that in the bank. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's
It's a great segue. Some episodes it is going to seem to a listener like we compare notes and
we
plan.
actually planned this out.
I think it was last week that became readily apparent it's not the case. But
Really?
I can't remember. I'm just pretty sure. I had that feeling.
Yeah. If you spotted that we weren't in sync, email us.
Yeah, and let us know. Podcast at oneicity.com. That along with vocab and just anything. If someone's annoying you at Starbucks and you need to pretend like you're sending an important email, just email us.
Just send us an email.
Guys
We'd
bugging
like
me
that.
while I'm waiting for my macchiato.
You don't have a bonus coming in on how many emails that come into the podcast or anything like that. You don't have a financial reason. Because if you could do that, you could say, if we get emails like this because
you need to help me end my fiscal year on firm financial ground. And you can help with that by sending an email to podcast@oneicity.com. Please.
that'll work. Do the puppy eyes.
That's right, yeah. So every week, we do want to do and talk about something that is easily put in place. Ideally, we say, and most of them are, you can literally do this after the episode ends. When we talk about things in the meat, quote unquote, of the episode, that's a long tail. It takes a while to put that in. It takes a lot of thought. But this is something that if you aren't already doing, as soon as the episode's over, listen all the way through. But as soon as it's done, go do it. And if you are doing it, pat yourself on the back. You're doing great.
Awesome job.
This week, the thing I was going to say is you ought to always answer the question to the donor, why should I give now?
Excellent.
Why should I give to this impact?
Excellent.
And we've talked before about scaffolding, which is taking your messaging points of problem, solution, participation, consequence. We're going to talk more about that when we talk new donors. But there's not a supplemental, but the additional thing is you got to answer why now, because thinking about a donor's experience with your organization, you're coming to them, you're mailing to them more than once. And maybe it's monthly, maybe it's twice a month, maybe, whatever. But why should I give to this letter you just sent me or this email you hit in my inbox?
I know you're going to send me another one. I'll
sketch the next one.
Yeah, it's no big deal.
And you need to think through why to answer that, because it's similar to that consequence of if we don't end this year on firm financial ground, the sloths are going to have nowhere to go. Or,
what do I care, right?
Yeah,
it's not my
whatever
problem.
it is. But you've got to put that out there. And so I also have to answer why you should give back to this letter. Take the time to write a check, put it in that envelope we sent you, mail it back, because this one matters. And sometimes there's a last day of school coming up. There's a campaign reason, or there's some sort of artificial or real reason. Maybe you're coming up on Thanksgiving.
Let's talk about artificial reasons. I mean, because you can just say, we need this. Would you please send this in by March 31st?
And we know psychologically, just putting that deadline in, you A/B test need it by March 31st versus we just need it March 31st to win every time by having the deadline. So that's effective, but that's a deadline. You still have, ideally, you'd answer why.
Yep.
And you got to think that through. It can be hard. Sometimes it is, like I said, it's first day of school. You got 2 weeks left to Thanksgiving or whatever it is. But you can also think about, okay, what happens? And one way I like to think about it, or don't like to think about it, is if nobody gives to this impact, what's going to happen?
Exactly.
And sometimes maybe in the summer or whenever your off season is of giving, you could just say giving drops in the summer, the winter, or whenever it is, but the need doesn't.
Right.
And you aren't saying we've looked at our books and we're behind. You're just helping someone understand. You don't want to be tricky. You don't want to be shifty about it, but you want to let a donor know a little bit about what's going on without them having to be lectured.
Yeah.
You don't want to include spreadsheets, but truly a donor would care. They care about what you're doing. They care about the problems you're solving and the work you're doing. And so if they really knew that, oh, okay, if I don't give in July, there might be some issues because giving is dropping and maybe you're not able to do as much. Well, I'd like to help with that. And you're able to do that quickly. And it's a tough question to answer. And usually it's one of the last things we have to think about and make sure is in there. But it's worth the effort you take to do that.
That's beautiful. Mine's pretty simple and not the usual for me. But I would say make sure you are offering particularly your current donors, and if you're able to segment current, new, less unlapsed, but offer your current and new donors a monthly giving option, and that is something you never know. Don't do it and distract from your main ask. But on your website, if you can,
but that's going to make me mad because I just came here to give one gift.
I just get one time,
and you're going to ask me for 11 more.
Yeah, and yes, I am, because
here it comes.
There you go. The sloths or the puppies or the whoever, and that becomes a powerful, bold thing to not project on your fears, but allow for that. Don't do it every time you ask for a gift, particularly if you're doing it in the mail, or events are powerful places to make sure that you include that offer. But just give them a monthly, okay, you're going to do better if you're not trying to do it on paper and mail all the time.
Yeah.
But if you can get your online giving stuff to where it works, where you give them a drop down option, you can.
You can do a pop up, or you can poke them.
And you've tested some stuff where they pop up sometimes. You watch it and you turn it off, and you just
It's something that that makes me nervous because I'm in that. Well, we're gonna make people angry.
Yep.
But all the testing we've done, and I've people I follow and trust, a lot of the testing I've seen them do, and I don't always like looking at other people's testing because everybody's donors are different.
But not everybody does testing really
as well as we do.
Yeah.
But if I can find 2 other groups that I trust who match essentially the data that we see, okay, that makes me feel a little more confident in it, that it's not making people mad. And I think a lot of it comes down to how you word it.
Exactly.
If you don't have your message pop up or your checkbox on your response device say, this would be even more helpful.
It's even better. The
If you do
people we
this.
love actually give 11 more times in a year than you.
If you structure it, make the biggest impact, help the most sloths, that kind of thing, you'll make an impact all year. People love you. They want to give a gift.
The other thing I would say is don't buy into some of the, let's call it webinar porn that start with, if you only had 1,000 monthly donors. Look
Oh,
what
where they
that
walk
would-
you back?
Yeah. And it's like, okay, 1,000 monthly donors? Let's start with how you do that.
Oh my gosh.
It's the project-a-thon into the potential
It's that
dollars.
mid-level marketing scheme where they're like, look, if
Yeah.
you've got 1,000 people selling protein powder for
Exactly.
we give you a Ferrari and you've got full access to
Yeah.
the house in Mexico.
All you need is everyone you've ever talked to. You talk to
sign
them.
up.
Yeah.
It's
So,
easy.
so anyway, just resist that because that anytime somebody starts at the level of if you have 1,000 of these without getting into the exactly how am I going to get 1,000 of those because that's hard work. That's blocking and tackling and that. But once you get that. You begin to just offer on a steady basis. You'll be happier with that, and not promising your boss you're going to find 1,000 monthly donors. You'll be happy. They'll be happier.
They'll be much happier.
Generally.
Maybe she won't fire you.
And you won't have to write the letter that says to be on firm financials.
Financial ground. If we don't find
If
800 more
if we
monthly
had budgeted
donors
for this to work that way, if I'd only stayed home rather than going to the
that
webinar. Okay, never mind.
So next week, we're gonna debut one of City's first webinar. And
How to get
monthly
1,000
donors.
monthly donors.
So tune in for that.
We could teach them
everybody else
how to take
sucks except ours.
2,000 monthly donors and turn them into 1,000 monthly donors.
That we could do quick.
That piece of cake.
You give
Do that
us
anytime.
2,000,
Anybody.
we'll give you 500 back. Before you get a monthly donor, you got to get a donor.
Yeah.
You got to get a new donor. You were talking about you're a lapsed donor for that organization, and at least not at this point are you going to be a reactivated lapsed donor for that organization.
I'm going to lay out, wait for them
Maybe
to make
they're
a
going to
case.
send you another one.
Yeah, I'll get something else.
But acquiring new donors is probably on the mind, in the back of the mind or front of the mind of every single person listening. And if
should
it's
be.
not,
Yeah.
it's you,
Yeah.
you need to pull over and get your head in a good space because new donors are your 1 or 1A to your current donors in terms of importance. Because if you're not bringing new donors in, you aren't keeping nobody keeps 100%
that's a great point.
of their donors.
Yeah, great point. Good
So
place to start. Yeah.
If you just like, we're just not going to bring in new donors. We're gonna focus on the ones we have.
That's so good.
Then you can almost, like they do on Shark Tank or other startup shows, you can project out your burn rate, and you could almost figure out when your organization is either going to shut its doors or slash its programs, because you might be keeping 55-60%. Some of our clients are in the 65.75%, but even that, you're losing a quarter every year.
Yeah.
So you got to go find some more.
Yeah.
So you got to find them. But to think about that, you do acquisition, you talk acquisition. Your boss probably has books on acquisition. You probably have books on acquisition. The two ways I think about it is, okay, where do I look? And what do I say? So where should they look? I have a couple ideas, but I'll let you try.
I was going to start the other direction, so I
all right, well, go with that then.
No, that's fine.
We don't study that, or we don't practice.
Well, okay. So I'll go with I think if you start with getting your story straight on
And to be clear, I wasn't raking those in the order of priority.
No,
So
okay,
it's
yeah.
not like he's saying I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well,
This
I would
time.
never say it. I just kind of point.
I'll edit it out. That's the only time I'll do any editing in post is if you say I'm wrong.
Well, you're going to be wrong first for me to say that. You're just not wrong very much. All right, so back to scaffolding. You alluded to that. We did in episode 3 and 7 that I wrote down. We talked scaffolding
well
at various
done.
points. Yeah, and so that's and you allude to it: problem, solution, participation, and consequence. Those are the things we find present. Don't think about it as a formula. Just think about it as if all of those things are present, you will have a better fundraising
It's a recipe.
experience. Yeah.
If you leave out the butter, your brownies are going to suck.
Yeah, it's going to be ugly. So anyway, so get that. So think about, all right, what is our very best? And usually you'll have multiple answers for each, but that's where you hone it down. Get those pieces there, and then think about what story do we know that it's a success story, it's a situation. What can we tell that illustrates the very best of our answers to those four pieces?
And why very best?
Well, because it is not an easy thing to acquire donors, and so you really want to sharpen your storytelling so that it is the best illustration that you can come up with that is still current enough.
Because with a new donor, most likely they haven't really heard of you, or heard from you, not of you, but they haven't heard from you. And so you can choose your best answers, because your best answer to those questions you may have talked to a regular donor about last month.
Absolutely. Great point. Because you're assuming that and let's just say, somehow a current donor runs into this messaging that's designed for new donors.
Something they see in the wild.
Yeah, they'll be like, I
remember that.
Oh, or
great.
how nice would if they remembered it? They'll just go, I still love those guys. I'm so glad I'm a donor. So it's okay. The projecting far more awareness onto a donor than is reasonable kills a lot of good ideas. People just aren't paying that close attention.
Not because they don't like you or love you, but similar to your life, dear listener, they got a lot going on.
I got some things going on.
So, yeah, having that, if you're going to have one bullet in your gun, make it a good bullet.
Yeah. And then I'm going to add, I guess I'm just going to add 2 things. I was actually going to add 3, but for some reason I pointed 2 fingers. So we've already talked about because, so I'm not going to count that one. But you want to emphasize impact or the difference that donor can make. Okay? So that's part of participation, but when you're scrambling for attention, you want to make sure the POW, the difference, the impact, the change, the whatever, you want to make sure that really is clear and strong, and it is undeniably understandable. No vagueness, no financial
firm foundation.
Yeah, none of that. This changes a life. This saves a kitty. This makes bunnies happy.
Someone who wouldn't eat yesterday will eat today.
Exactly. And in my world, that is full throttle. Whatever you can say and do that's 100% true, but that you go at it with emotion and clarity and stickiness of messaging so that it's very sharp. Last thing I'd say is this is a great place to declare ownership for the donor, for the other prospective donor, to say this will make our community better. This will help this neighbors or do this for each other. People in our area do this. People who believe this. So you reach to the possibility of a community for not only the prospective donor, but for what this person's going to do. So that's what I can think about for the easy messaging part.
It's not always easy, though. I mean, it sounds easy, but
no, I don't mean to make it even sound easy. It's hard.
The refrain I always think about in building these messages, and a lot of times it's reviewing people's messaging when we're coming into work with a client that, yeah, our acquisition didn't do well. You want to take a look at that as before you start yours? Sure, fine. It's always helpful to know what people have seen and not liked. The refrain, or I guess it's a motto I think about and talk to our team about, is it's about them, not you.
Great point.
Because it's very easy to, when you're building your messaging and, like you're talking about the problem I want them to know we're solving, how we're doing the solution, how they can help, all of those things, especially with a new donor, you can feel a lot of the pressure of, okay, I've got to let them know everything we do.
Yeah, let's not forget the mission statement.
Yeah. Oh, well, and we can't forget to let them know that we bought the really good rubber pellets for the playground for the kids because it doesn't hurt as bad when you fall on them. We got to let them know that's how much we care about the kids. And all of this stuff, you put all that in and you've sent them something that is all about you and nothing about them.
No questions they were asking at that point.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Well, that's all great. Perfect. I know what to say.
Yep.
Done deal.
Yep.
I just walk out the front door or out of my cubicle.
Start waving this around.
Michael Scott in the office. I declare bankruptcy. Where do you say it?
Well, yeah. This is so hard. I mean,
I just rope-a-doped you. I'm like, this is going to be easy.
Well, I did the messaging.
Yeah, I was just about to say, this is a payback for that.
Go ahead. I'll critique you.
Okay, yeah, critique me.
Yeah.
First off, the pithy answer is you look for a new donor anywhere you might find one.
Oh, that actually is good.
If you think there might be people at the mall, who care if you're an animal rescue ASPCA kind of thing, and there's a pet store over there where you go hang out and get some new donors. But truly, you can, in analog, you can buy lists. We all hate when our information gets sold, except when it's to an organization we care about. You can buy people's mailing information. And when I join a mailing list, when I get, I just recently got my son a subscription to Car and Driver, Motor Trend, car magazines, because it's summertime and I got to get some work done.
And how old is he?
He's 7.5. And he won't stop talking about cars. And so this is selfish, and then I'm trying to buy myself some time. If there are 2 magazines a month, will help me get some work done.
That'd be awesome.
But somebody's going to be able to buy my name and address off of the Motor Trend list, and I can't name another, but some auto trader magazine is going to be able to mail me knowing that I was interested in cars because I'm on this mailing list.
Yep.
And so you can go to a list broker and you can responsibly buy lists of people who are on things, and you can look at what's common to your mission, blah, blah. We could do 3 episodes just about how to buy a list.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Or, well, we'd have to bring in our president, but Chris could do 4 episodes on how to buy a list. You can buy what's called a carrier route with the post office, which basically is like Vietnam carpet bombing a neighborhood.
Yeah, and the thing that is a lot of people don't understand about that option is they think it's got to be current resident instead of name, but you actually can have the actual names, and they're post office approved, which may or may not mean anything. But you those can
still
be,
personalize it.
It can be personalized and accurate to the extent that the post office can make it accurate.
Which we've seen varying results there, but like everything, your mileage may vary. In digital, you can ask.
So I'm going to press pause for a second since you did digital.
Uh-oh.
So let's notice that way I did that. That was good. People often think that direct mail is sort of the gold standard or the best way to go about new donor acquisition. And the one thing I want to keep saying, within the company, I receive several calls a year from people who want to hire us to do donor acquisition mailings for them. And one of the things that we don't do is...
But by doing that, they want us to only do that.
Exactly.
For them.
And we just don't do that because it is the hardest game you can play, and it is the most
Why don't you want to take my money? I'm an organization. I got the check.
Yeah.
The check will clear.
Well, and
just do my acquisition.
and I've had a conversation or two like that. And the problem is I know what the conversation is going to be like after all of that, and it's just not worth it. It's just not smart. And so what I want to say is what you're getting ready to talk about on the digital side. If an organization is, if you're not already doing fairly significant direct mail for your cultivation, for your current and your lapsed donor programs, you want to be slow to jump into any sort of donor acquisition in the mail, new donor acquisition in the mail, just because of how tricky it is. And yes, you can buy it, really cheap per piece, and go carpet bombing, you go big. But the problem is the results are still small percentages no matter, mail a million pieces.
If I can get you 1,000 monthly donors, if you're buying all the houses on a carrier route,
exactly,
you're paying X amount per house plus per piece just to make it. How many of those houses need to say yes, and how much do they need to send you when they say yes? All of a sudden, that could become a scary percentage you have to hit to make that work.
Exactly, and you're with very few exceptions, your goal is not to break even in new donor acquisition. This was an unusual year for our clients and for others.
I've never seen anybody make money in acquisition.
But people were sitting at home, and their antenna were up about local causes, and we talked some about that last week. Yeah. So anyway, so do that. The other thing I would say is, if you're going to stay in the mail arena, this is a place. Just don't do this by yourself. This is like doing your own taxes and some other things that it may not be smart to do by yourself. And so, which I've already said, I'm not going to. We won't do it if that's all you want us to do.
Don't send that to podcast@oneinstitute.com.
Unless you are just mean. But it is something that you probably want help, because list brokers. There's good list brokers there are few. And there are lots of people who think they're list brokers who are really bad. And just saying. And so be cautious about that. It's a place to spend money that you never get back and you really feel miserable about. Okay. So now I'll unpause, press play.
In digital,
this is where the magic happens.
Yeah. Well, it's not necessarily
because you build an app, right? You want to get an app.
Yeah.
First?
You want an app. You want to build an app and your acquisition app. No, that's horrible. But in digital, it's not quite the opposite of direct mail, but it is a lot easier and I don't want to say simpler. It's more cost effective to go at people who don't know you, and you can take lots of routes, really. Facebook ads, which you may be thinking, well, nobody clicks on those. I don't click on those ads, which fine. But there are people who are, trust me. And if they're not clicking on your ad, they're clicking on your attention competitor's ad, the people also vying for your donor's attention in dollars. So Facebook is the place to start. They make it pretty easy. There have been times where, because of vacation scheduling and things like that, I've actually set up a client's campaign. And so I can do it.
You're far more technical than you make it sound.
But
still. Could someone like me do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's your measure.
Yeah. Well, okay. That seemed like a trope. But with some Googling and following Facebook's steps, because again, Facebook wants to take your money. And so they want you to be able to set this up so you can pay them.
And they're not gonna let you go live with something until they've approved it anyway, right?
Sort of. So with Facebook, you set an ad, and that you can do copy images. There's so many options to go at people. And keep in mind, Facebook has all the creepy information on all of us. And the targeting that they can do is awesome. Again, if it's for an organization I like, it's really creepy in any other sense. And they can they can find people who like organizations and pages like yours, like causes that apply to you. They can find these people. If you've got a Facebook page, they can put it in front of people who follow your Facebook page, put it in front of their friends. There's so many targeting things that you can do with Facebook ads. It's awesome. But you're also putting your eggs all into Facebook's basket, which can be great when it's working.
Or when they're being benevolent.
When they're being benevolent. Lots of nonprofits.
As overlords do.
Yeah, as overlords. Lots of nonprofits got affected by some stuff they did last fall, which is a great time for them to cause nonprofits some stress. Google is also another great spot where we've seen success and clients have seen success. The numbers are different because the audiences are different, but Google again is the other person or entity who's keeping track of your whereabouts and everything you do. Great targeting there. And essentially, like everything else we've talked about, any medium where you can take your message, take what you are doing that a donor cares about in their community or in this problem, you're just using everything you can to put that in front of them. And it can be a Google ad. It can be a video on Facebook. It can be an Instagram ad. You could be a TikTok maybe. If you want to be funny and you've got that kind of angle in your bag, you can do that. Or it could be skywriting. Whatever it is, it's taking that opportunity to get that message in front of donors. The most intriguing thing, and we may need to do a whole episode on this. I didn't give you a heads up. I was going to mention that is we have a client who does events as new donor acquisition.
Oh, yeah.
And it goes, fair to say, gangbusters for them.
Oh, it's serious gangbusters. I mean,
and
it's like beyond a metric gangbuster.
Just yeah, it's bigger than a metric game. Yeah. The Imperial gangbuster. And that's something where you might be thinking, well, I can't do an event. An event, that's a lot of capital outlay I've got to do and a lot of time to put up an event just to get new donors. It's a lot more time effective to send a letter to everybody.
We just rather decline slowly.
Yeah. Again, it's taking any opportunity you can find, think of, or get your hands on to put in the business world, they'd say your unique selling proposition in front of somebody.
Well, so let's just say one of the reasons one should send an email to podcast@Winicity is to tell us who you are and what your circumstances are, because we know our target audience in terms of our clients and kind of who's in what we always call the tribe, just people that we interact with. But we don't know all of who's listening. We'd like to, but we don't. And until we work out the technical stuff where people can do a call-in show, wouldn't that be awesome? We have to kind of go down the middle. So we're assuming that you're big enough to do this, but not so big that you have that. And so some of the most successful percentage-wise new donor acquisition events I've seen had 10 people in them. And were coffee and dessert kind of things with not a lot of hoopla, no special speaker that you're paying a lot of money for, but maybe 80% of the people who were there that were not donors became donors. Well, we'd all love that kind of a percentage in ROI.
Oh my gosh.
Particularly if you work out for someone else to buy the dessert and the coffee, right?
Cake and coffee's cheap.
So the model I would suggest, and it's a simple, it's a smaller than a 3x5 card to write. People who love you, who are already donors, who are ready for an ask beyond just what they're doing financially. You say, would you put 6 people in your living room or on Zoom if that's your preference, and let me tell our story, and you say why you love us, and then you have a very clear, previous episodes, ask and way for them to respond. So you only get 50%. That's a really good night.
Oh, yeah.
You'll love that. The ROI, long-term value on this ad of donors is big. And the risk is low.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you were talking about off at tours. It could be an easy ask. An email, you can get your current list, ask, hey, will you forward this email to somebody who you think would also care about sloths? And it can be, hey, you love sloths, I love sloths. Come look at what we're doing for sloths. Mm-hmm. And now if you say it that way, you shouldn't have somebody at the end, with the hat around, because if you're asking them to take a tour, you should just enable them to take a tour. Yeah. But if at the end of the tour and they see your work, you have a conversation, oftentimes that's when you're going to find people who came to take a tour turning into donors.
Yeah. And we've talked about events. We probably will talk about events a bunch, because events are an interesting way of going about it, and there's so much around it that doesn't work. But events don't have to be several hundred people in a convention center with a pricey speaker. You certainly can do that, but that's like going to Vegas. There's a risk there if you don't know how to do that, and you often spend a lot of money and time and some of the hard cost of all your people blowing up, 2 months of their work life to put on the event.
Yep.
So go easy on that stuff. So I would say I really liked, and I appreciate you letting me, not like you had a choice, but letting me do message first, because one of the things that's critical in my mind about message is if you focus first on how you're going to do it, you still have to figure out message. But if you figure out your message, then you can begin to play with the ways you expose people to this message and you present it and tinker with that. But the message, the work you did on message stays the same.
It's more efficient.
Yeah.
Which we could all be more efficient.
Yeah, no question.
Like anything else, if there's something we left out we left out a ton. But I mean, if there's something that's gnawing at you that we left out, something specific, or that you've got a use case, you had acquisition that went great or horrible, or
well, and if your acquisition did not do well in 2020, that should be a signal of some kind, because the acquisition that we did for our clients and
a few others
we had access, and some of the people we did special work for was like, it's case study work, and in fact we do have case studies about it.
but hand over fist,
and really powerful responses. If yours wasn't there, you need to examine your messaging, because that was your chance.
That's smoke in the cockpit.
There's a signal there that there was. You could be in one of the niches or categories that historically did badly during the pandemic time, but it also could be that you went at it a wrong way, and you don't want to do that again. So just learn from it. Move on.
Best time to plant a tree was 30 years ago. Next best time is today.
Yeah. Thanks, Boomer. That was good.
That was good. Another thing that started before we had this podcast was sharing information, things we've read, stuff we're seeing. You and I would pass back and forth, and we would just often, because none of it was breaking news or had to be read right now. That's work. But it was, hey, I read this is interesting. This ought to be on your radar. Hey, have you seen this? Okay. And so these are things, we each try to bring something that ought to be on your radar, dear listener, if it's not already.
Yep.
So you go first.
Okay.
So I can interject.
Which is fancy for interrupt, right? So mine is a book called Antifragile by Nassim Taleb. I believe I'm pronouncing that pretty close.
If not, you know where to send your information.
Yeah, that's right. So here's the opening line to this book, and it's a big book, but it's something I read not every year, every couple of years. The opening line is, "Wind extinguishes a candle and energizes fire, not fear, and energizes fire."
I thought, whoa, I don't know where this is going.
I know this. Okay.
This is live without a net.
Wind extinguishes a candle and energizes fire. So he is saying, how is it that one thing can extinguish, another thing can make it grow? And he is talking about this idea of antifragile. And antifragile is not resilience or robustness, because those are things that respond, that stay steady in chaos and lack of order.
Kind of survive.
Yeah, they survive. What he's talking about is that there's fragile, where if there is turbulence or upset or pandemic or something, in the fragile state, it falls apart, it gets worse. He's talking about designing for something or an organization or how you do your life so that it actually prospers, it gets stronger, it gets better in the tumult, and it gets better in the chaos. This guy is he's the guy who you probably, if you're familiar with Black Swan, that was one of the early parts of his writing. It was the previous book to Antifragile. This is something I read every couple of years because it reminds me that there is a way, no matter how chaotic, no matter how much crazy it is, to prosper. I was talking with a client about strategic planning today, and we were laughing about, he and I are both old enough, we can remember 5-year strategic plans. How hilarious is that to think about?
You mean you're planning 60 months out?
Yeah. So how hilarious is that? We were just, it was crazy because we both were like, well, even 18-month plans. And so we were talking about, and it is a component of Antifragile, to shift thinking from the totally illusionary idea that I can project my planning, a year into the future. Well, there are ways, Taleb talks about them, there are ways to structure organizations, here's the difference. I think about the company, I think about my career, I think about the way I operate out of this idea of antifragile. And as I'll just say, because I haven't stepped across this line recently, as someone who follows Jesus was one of the greatest examples of antifragile.
Yeah.
What was meant to end things actually made them more pervasive and get more.
You're blowing out a candle, but wait a minute.
No, sorry.
You started a bonfire.
Yeah. So anyway, Antifragile. Powerful book. It's a monster. I mean, it'll take you a while, but it is one of those things that it's worth it. You won't figure everything out from this one book, but it's worth the journey.
Mine might make you mad.
Oh,
no! Don't look. That is unfair.
Fair is not my thing.
Yeah, come on. Project Hail Mary.
Oh,
Yeah. I knew it had to be this week, or it couldn't be.
Oh, I didn't even
later.
think about doing that. Oh, that's
Project Hail Mary.
Okay. Let's hear what you're going to do with this.
First, I guess we'll just start with who wrote it. It's by Andy Weir.
Yeah.
He wrote The Martian.
Yeah.
So if you have you may have gone to see the Matt Damon movie. Mm-hmm. My wife was very intent on going to see a sci-fi movie for the first time in history.
What a coincidence.
I think this is in space, but we should probably go see this movie. This looks awesome. And the trailer was like half done on YouTube. I'm like, you didn't even finish. She's like, I've seen everything.
That's all I need to see. I'm trying to remember. Does he take his shirt off in that? I can't remember.
Oh, like a lot.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like, look, that's Mars gravity, okay? Come on. Anybody.
We'd all look good in Mars.
Put me in a globe on Mars. See what I look like.
Okay.
The book, it's one of the best.
On the Mars?
Yeah. So The Martian was an amazing adaptation of a book.
Okay.
You may have watched the movie. If you haven't read the book, go read the book. It is an amazing narrative voice. And
oh yeah,
I guess I'm really doing Andy Weir's books, but the narrator is the main character. It's Matt Damon in The Martian, and there's such a distinct voice and character.
Oh yeah.
that shines
I know where you're going
through.
now. Okay. All right. That's good.
In his third book, Project Hail Mary, and his second book, Artemis, was not as good, but I still kind of believe was written by a 16-year-old girl because that's the main character, and the narrative voices don't feel like you should be able to do that well. Nobody should be that good, but whatever. Project Hail Mary just came out like a month ago, and like half our company has read it, and it is phenomenal. I'm a huge sci-fi nerd. I love space. The plot is phenomenal. It will be an amazing movie. There's twists and turns. I can usually spot things like that coming. I spotted one of them, and I was extremely proud. I went like 1 for 17. It was great. But his narrator's voice is so different than his other two books. They aren't the same. He's doing the same strategy, but he's not a one-trick pony in that he can only write one voice. He can pick a voice. He can create a character and get into that person's head and then project all of their thoughts, their inner monologue
Motion,
to you for 400 pages. And he can tell a story. You learn things about this character without him saying, "Oh, I just really care about children." He gets that across to you by moving the plot along. Not only am I just plugging an awesome sci-fi book, this is relevant in the leader voice we talked about a few weeks ago, and rolling back the cover, peeling the onion on your leader, on the person who is signing and sending your fundraising emails or appeals or letters or whatever, and letting them see who that person is, a little bit of personality.
Yeah. Just enough, right?
Just enough. You can still move the plot along, which in this analogy is moving your fundraising, talking about what your organization is doing, but you can bring some seasoning, some personality to that person, because then your leader, just like the characters in these books, they aren't characters anymore. They're people.
Yeah.
Your leader isn't somebody who's signing a letter. It's a person. I know them because I've read their letters. I know who they are.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Apply that to your fundraising, but also read Project Hail Mary.
Just because it's a great story. And storytelling, learning how to tell stories well. Weir is a great storyteller.
He's a great storyteller.
And so, oh, that's great. I wish I thought of that.
I know.
Dang it.
Yeah, I did. I knew it was either this week or I was hosed on being able to use it.
You got it. Good job. Good job.
This is episode 14. This is
Just seemed
on
like
the shorter
yesterday
end.
we were like
we were
last
doing
week
that. We were doing the
13.
Decapod, which that sounds like a creepy creature that I need to call my pest company for. But this is episode 14 of Not Your Father's Fundraising Podcast.
They haven't shut us down yet.
They haven't shut us down yet. We're theoretically, the rent is going to still cash, and we're going to be here next week.
It's all good.
But
Yeah.
next week, after the rent check clears,
Here we go.
we're going to talk about how to effectively use the back of a grocery store receipt to advertise your next event.
Ooh.
So stay tuned. I'm Ryan Thomas.
And I'm Steve Thomas.
Give us your 5-star reviews and send any questions, any comments, even if they're bad.
Book recommendations.
Book recommendations, telling us you read Project Hail Mary. Anything to podcast@oneicity.com. Thanks.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Not Your Father's Fundraising Podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We really appreciate that effort. Tune back in next week for another fresh episode of Not Your Father's Fundraising Podcast.